Welcome to Sci-Fi Quantum Archives. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and explore. Greybridge moved like a body too tired to dream. Porch lights hummed low over damp wood. Inside a one-room bar at the corner of Lewis and Main, a man wiped condensation from a glass without looking up. His fingers knew the motion. Same time every night. On the television above him, a weatherman smiled into silence, volume off, captions lagging a second behind. Somewhere farther up the hill, a screen door eased shut behind a boy in socks holding a tin bowl for a stray that never came twice. He placed it carefully on the porch, eyes scanning the edge of the yard, pausing at the dark outline of a fence that hadn't been painted in years. Distant train horns passed without protest. Dogs didn't bark. No sirens. Outside the laundromat, folding chairs sat empty beside machines that spun their final load. A young woman gathered warm fabric into a plastic bin, face blank, mouth forming the lyrics of a song only she could hear. Fluorescent bulbs above her buzzed with dull impatience. On Mill Street, a sedan crawled to a stop at a blinking light. Inside, a man pressed his thumb into his temple, eyes tracing the dashboard clock. 3:01. The hand on his wristwatch swept calmly. In the passenger seat, a child slumped asleep with headphones still on, tangled in the cord. Behind curtained windows, homes exhaled quietly. A coffee pot clicked off in a small kitchen where a kettle had boiled dry hours ago. A fridge motor cycled on. Somewhere in a bathroom, a light bulb trembled in its socket without drawing notice. Near the edge of town, a radio host coughed into his elbow, hit pause on a cassette, and leaned back with a grunt. Back in 5, he'd muttered, but never left his chair. One hand hovered near the fader. Nothing unusual pressed through the air. No strange noise. No pulse. At 3:02, power dimmed for less than a breath. Television screens blackened and returned. Street lamps narrowed to dull amber before swelling again. A man closing the gas station rubbed his arm and looked toward the transformer pole. The glow there didn't seem wrong, only unfamiliar. By 3:03, every watch had stopped. Every wall clock paused mid-tick. Phone displays froze. Ovens blinked dumbly. Cars stalled at intersections where nobody moved. A girl staring at her homework missed the moment her pen lifted from the page and hung there. The minute hand above her teacher's desk never reached its mark. Yet nobody flinched. No eyes darted to confirm the loss. No voices rose. Inside Greybridge, the quiet continued as if nothing had shifted. Breath carried on. Feet moved. Spoons stirred cereal in silence. A man adjusted his tie in the mirror. A woman folded towels into uneven squares. Outside, the sun prepared to rise. Inside, it was still 3:03. Coffee brewed. Toothpaste foamed. Radios hummed with yesterday's static, caught between frequencies. In kitchens, stovetops warmed skillets with slow, hissing oil. Spoons clinked against ceramic bowls. Children zipped jackets halfway, dragging backpacks toward front doors. Mailboxes creaked open without question. Shoes pressed into frost-laced soil that shouldn't have held its chill. A cashier unlocked the doors to the pharmacy, humming something cheerful without noticing the street was empty. No deliveries. No traffic. No pigeons on the roof ledge where they always waited. Inside Greybridge, the morning had shape. Conversations picked up from the day before, unbroken. School bells rang. Attendance was taken. Water bubbled through pipes without delay. A man at the bar adjusted his stool to face the window, unaware no one had walked past it in over an hour. Beyond the hills, time moved without them. A commuter train rolled east, its windows glazed with early sun. One carriage recorded forward-facing footage. Trees blurred by, telephone poles snapped past, then nothing. Greybridge should have appeared at the 30-second mark, showed as gray stretch with no movement. Cars parked in clean rows. Doors shut. One figure stood mid-step at a crosswalk, foot hanging inches above ground, coat frozen midsway. The image passed quickly. Next frame caught the next town's outskirt. A passenger watching through a window frowned, sensing something missed. Blinked. looked again, shrugged it off. In a control center far from that track, screens blinked red around a rectangle of dead zone. Coordinates failed to load. Satellite relays requested position data 6 times before marking the town as inactive. A technician logged the error without comment, fingers pausing only once above the keyboard. GPS users across 3 highways noticed their maps shifting strangely. Routes curved where roads didn't. Cars showed as suspended in place. A trucker refreshed twice before pulling over, checking signal bars with a grimace. Reception normal. Compass functional. Only the map refused to hold its shape. In a helicopter out of Dutton, a camera operator leaned forward, tracking terrain with a practiced eye. Reached for the zoom, paused. The town below looked right, buildings arranged just as before, but shadows told a different time. Cars in place, trees still. No one in sight. He scratched the lens, wiped it clean. No change. Sunlight crossed farmland. Clouds drifted, reshaped, moved on. Time outside refused to wait. Inside Greybridge, clocks remained at 3:03. Emergency dispatch out of the county line ran 4 calls without response. Landlines rang through. Cellular pings looped into error. Messages went out, bounced back without receipt. No voicemails. No automated redirection. Just silence. A fire captain 10 miles west stood at the station console, eyes locked on a red pin that hadn't updated since before sunrise. He keyed in again. Cross-reference. Refreshed twice. Still locked at 3:03. Weather stations around the zone updated wind speed, temperature, UV index. Inside the boundary, nothing shifted. Air pressure unreadable. No barometric signature. A pilot en route to a training facility rechecked coordinate. Clouds rolled beneath the wings, ordinary as always, but Greybridge didn't appear. Just farmland. Outlines of distant silos. A mark where a water tower should have stood. The co-pilot glanced out without speaking. Time on the dashboard showed 8:14. His watch said 3:03. Neither man mentioned it. By mid-morning, satellite overlays refreshed once more. Still blank. No heat signatures. No vehicle movement. A calibration sweep narrowed the fault to a rectangular patch 15 miles wide, 12 across. Operators flagged the data. Nothing triggered an alert. No weather interference, no electromagnetic readings, no damage report. South of the blackout, a man in a co-working loft reviewed a GPS archive from his morning commute. Systems consultant. Quiet type. Always took the same road north through Greybridge before connecting to the main line. He opened the route file, browsed timestamps, saw the shape missing before understanding it. There was no speed loss. No lane change. No fuel adjustment. Just a 5-hour slice wiped from the trace. Data reappeared with no warning. Position jump cut from mile marker 74 to 96. No drift. No backtrack. Full signal logged at entry and exit, but the stretch in between held no time. He copied the anomaly. Sent a query to the regional office. Labeled it, latency fault, possibly solar interference. The reply came in 2 lines. No escalation. If he'd spoken it aloud, maybe someone would have listened. Instead, the file settled into a folder of discarded pings and traffic patterns. On a roadside surveillance feed east of the woods, a crow landed on a railing. Wings closed, head tilting toward the center of the road. No cars passed. It waited. Flew off. Not even animals entered. No one tried again. Inside Greybridge, wind moved leaves in slow arcs. Paper rested on porches untouched. Church bells failed to ring. Outside, morning passed into noon. Across every channel, every system, every screen that tried to look in, Greybridge stayed gone. At 8:03, Greybridge returned without ceremony. No thunder. No glow. Just presence. GPS grids locked again. Phone towers accepted traffic. Coordinates stabilized. Every highway map snapped back into place. No one watching knew what had changed. Only that something no longer was. Emergency vehicles moved quickly, tires cutting grooves into gravel shoulders. Sirens fell quiet a half-mile out. No smoke. No collapse. Houses upright. Lawns intact. No sign of wind or impact. First responders stepped onto streets expecting damage. Instead, they found open storefronts. People walked sidewalks with cups of coffee, exchanging quiet greetings. A crossing guard raised a hand at the corner of Birch and Lenox, pausing no one. Children already inside. No late arrivals. No questions. An officer asked a woman what time it was. She checked her phone. 3:08, blinked. Raised an eyebrow. Said she'd just come out for milk. Asked if something had happened. Inside the diner, bacon sizzled on a flat top. A booth near the window held two old men arguing over baseball scores. One paused, looked out. Mentioned the fire truck. Returned to his plate. A teenager on her porch waved to the paramedics, asked why so many cars. Her mother appeared behind her, arms crossed, asked the same. No one looked tired. No one asked what day it was. By all appearances, life had continued without disruption. No buildings showed strain. No clocks displayed wrong times. The town's digital signage looped weather updates with the same temperature as before. And yet the light had shifted. Shadows landed where they shouldn't. Trash bins left out the night before had collected dew from a morning that hadn't existed. A puddle reflected a sky half an hour too high. The responders gathered quietly in the municipal lot, unsure what to report. No injuries. No outage. No disturbance. A dispatcher from 2 counties over-radioed for confirmation. Signal clear. Units marked safe. No cause found. One firefighter checked his watch. 8:14. He'd synced it before leaving base. Still accurate. Still ticking. Back in the town square, a clock tower chimed once. No one seemed to hear it. The first receipt came from the cafe on Ridgeview. Printed at 8:22, time-stamped 3:17. No one noticed until the drawer was counted. 5 hours off. Not just one transaction. All of them. Every order since reopening. Muffins. Coffee. Sandwiches with extra onions. The digital register displayed the correct time. Only the paper trail resisted. A boy who hadn't left his bed in 2 days walked into school with perfect posture. No cough. No fatigue. His mother swore he couldn't lift his head the night before. She checked his forehead twice before letting him go. The school nurse marked him present, offered no questions. His name appeared in the attendance logs. He submitted homework dated 5 days ahead. On a quiet street just past the grocery, a woman stopped mid-dust to check her antique wall clock. The hour hand had drifted backwards, minute hand moving in tight counterclockwise arc. She wound it again, only to watch it reverse once more. She changed the batteries. Same result. That evening, she hung a towel over it. Claimed the ticking had started sounding unfamiliar. Cattle on the northern edge of town refused to leave their shelter. Hooves scraped barn floors without pattern. Feed buckets remained untouched. No signs of illness. No bloating. No fever. One farmer stood silent by the fence, watching his oldest steer face the wrong direction for hours without blinking. A mechanic with a front porch camera checked his feed out of boredom. Fast-forwarded through the quiet stretch between sunrise and lunch. At 6:04, he stood on his porch, reaching for keys. At 6:05, he vanished mid-turn. No blur. No transition. Frame skipped. The next image showed his boot halfway across the yard. Same posture. Same expression. 5 minutes missing. He rewound the footage. Played it slower. Counted each frame. No dropouts in the software. No indication of camera failure. He saved the clip to a thumb drive, walked it down to the hardware store, showed it to the clerk who sometimes helped with tech. They watched it twice, said nothing, handed it back. On Main, clocks continued to tick. Radio hosts announced time on the hour. Morning traffic moved with the rhythm of habit, but more screens began showing subtle offset. Watches that ran fast slowed. Ovens reset. Car dashboards hesitated before updating. Phones showed calendar glitches, marking the date twice before settling. No one called for help. No one spoke of fear. Yet across Greybridge, people paused longer before answering questions, looked longer at their own reflections, checked the time twice, listened for something they couldn't name. She found it beneath her bed, wedged behind the leg of a trunk that hadn't been opened in years. Brass rim dulled, leather strap warped from heat. It had never worked properly, not since the house fire. Her grandmother used to wind it before church, twisting the crown 3 full turns, always with a glance toward the sky, as if waiting for something to shift. After the fire, the crystal face cracked, our hand dropped loose, second hand disappeared entirely. That morning it ticked. Not forward. She pressed it to her ear. Rhythm held fast. Each movement smooth. Hands glided backwards with grace no repairman had managed. She wound it again. Nothing jammed. She checked the battery slot out of habit. Empty as always. No corrosion. No mechanism that should have started on its own. Word reached the house by the quarry. Most didn't go near it anymore. Too far from town. No cell reception. No mailbox. The man living there had stopped answering calls 2 years back. Left his position quietly. Paid property taxes in person without conversation. But he listened when she knocked. He took the watch gently, turned it under sunlight. No questions. Just watched the motion until his knuckles paled. He stepped into a cluttered side room without speaking. Pulled a notepad from beneath a stack of tape reels, opened to a page dated 3 days before the freeze. Pencil marks tracked faint vibrations beneath the soil. Weak, but consistent. Nothing matching fracking or quarry drills. No rainfall. No snowmelt. The page following the gap showed silence. Not absence of movement. Absence of baseline. Sensors had recorded void. Not flatline. Not noise. Just nothing. 5 hours of data scrubbed clean, replaced by silence too uniform to measure. When the pulses resumed, they returned stronger, but shifted. Not faster. Not louder. Tilted. He rewound tape by hand, listened again. Volume unchanged, but rhythm wrong. The beat had reversed. Ground movement out of sync with pressure flow. As if the source no longer followed surface time. He placed the watch beside the recorder. Its ticks matched the pulse. Not by accident. Not by chance. He ran his hand along the wooden desk edge until it caught on a deep scratch, carved years earlier during a tremor no one else remembered. He traced it slowly. Looked once toward the ground. His breath held too long. No earthquakes had been reported. No fault lines existed near Greybridge. But something beneath the town had changed direction. He spent the night with paper maps unrolled across the floor, small weights holding each corner from curling. Tape reels lined the desk in uneven stacks. A thermos of coffee gone cold sat beside a cracked monitor blinking through archived spectrograms. Static pulsed between each second. Signals marked in red ink traced 5-point anomalies across different hemispheres. First was Tarsin Hill, Manitoba. July 1974. A town of 1,600, 1 general store, 2 churches. Clocks there stopped at 2:14. Weather logs recorded no sunrise. 5 hours missing from the national grid. It returned as a landfill. No survivors. No inquiry. The records filed as misdated. Second, Halberd, New South Wales. November 1989. Population under 200. Local cattle station vanished off satellite relay. Reappeared partially. Main road intact, buildings folded into the soil at 45-degree slant. Windows fused. Static power draw measured at 300%. No movement inside. Fence gates hung open, padlocks still intact. Third, Del Riego, Patagonia. March 1993. 4 hours, 57 minutes unrecorded. Fault line confirmed inactive. Reentry marked by 3 square miles of frost despite equatorial temperature. Local flora unchanged. Inhabitants noted by outsiders as visibly aged, dehydrated, mostly blind. All refused interviews. Government sealed entry within 2 days. 4th. Berringham Ridge, England. February 2006. 5-hour clock drift during Winter Festival. Public square recorded at 8:15, followed by abrupt blackout. CCTV systems restored with corrupted data. Town returned uninhabited. Livestock found intact. Beds slept in. Fires still warm. No bodies. No migration trace. 5th. Yarra Fold, Mongolia. May 2011. Entire settlement failed to log seismic signatures for exactly 300 minutes. Radios jammed. Watchtowers reported confusion, no recollection of absence. 2 weeks later, water reservoirs collapsed from within. Foundation stones pulled inward, not down. All 5 shared identical markers. Localized void, mechanical time loss, external observers blocked, reappearance without consistent damage pattern. Except Greybridge. Greybridge had come back whole. He circled it on the map with a shaking hand. Unlike the others, this one left no topographical change. Roads remained intact. Structures untouched. Clocks resumed. He searched for a breach, a common signal. Instead, he found shape. Each town formed part of a larger arc, distances near perfect if plotted against geologic magnetic drift. An incomplete loop. A corridor with missing teeth. Greybridge fell where the path buckled. The curve skipped just before it, resumed just beyond it. This one didn't finish. He stared at the marks until numbers lost meaning. Fingers dug into the vinyl floor. Eyes dry from lack of blinking. He whispered aloud once, not as theory but recognition. Something had tried to pass through. Greybridge hadn't resisted. Something else had interrupted it. A boy froze mid-step near his locker, one shoelace dragging. When he spoke again, the sentence picked up from the middle. He didn't notice. His friend blinked twice and walked on. Teachers said nothing. A grocery clerk paused while bagging pears. Hand hovered above the paper sack. Arm didn't shake, didn't falter. Just stopped. 47 seconds passed before motion returned. She resumed without adjusting her position. Pear landed gently, as if no time had gone missing. A man woke up in the neighbor's basement. He'd gone to bed in his own house, remembered brushing his teeth, remembered checking the thermostat. Couldn't explain the metal chair under him, couldn't account for the bloody tissue clenched in his palm. No injury. Just pressure in his head like missing air. Children in the library's after-school program began to sketch without prompting. One outlined rooftops across the street, chimney lines exact, but everything reversed. Street names mirrored, storefront letters written backwards. When asked why, she said the view looked wrong from this side. A toddler pointed to the television, said that's where his face had gone. Not a character. His own. Told his mother he had tried to smile, but it wouldn't move. She laughed at first, until he started crying without sound. She unplugged the set. A high school student opened her locker and found it filled with pine needles. No trees nearby. No trail leading in. Books lay untouched beneath them. She pulled one free and found every page filled with names she didn't recognize. Same handwriting, all caps. No title. She closed it. Didn't tell anyone. At the corner store, receipts printed in triplicate. Same purchases, same total, 3 different times. One matched the register clock. One matched real time. The third showed 2:04 p.m. next Friday. On the church's notice board, thumbtacks rusted in a single night. The pastor replaced them, turned away, turned back. Half the notes were blank. Names wiped clean. Only times remained. A girl drew the shape of her bedroom in crayon. Bed. Window. Lamp. Herself, sitting upright. Her reflection drawn in front of her, on the wrong side of the glass. No eyes. Just 2 lines where the mouth should be. She insisted it wasn't a dream. Said she'd wave. Said it hadn't. People remembered standing still, arm raised, spoon near lips, frozen in gesture. They remembered sound beneath their feet. A soft clicking. Mechanical. Too precise to be natural. Not metal. Not bone. Something between. One mother found her son asleep beneath the kitchen table. Blanket tucked neatly. Bowl of cereal beside him, milk still cold. He claimed he'd gone to bed hours earlier. He didn't remember coming downstairs. No one shared these things in full. Only pieces. Hint. Unease pressed against their backs, but no one knew which direction to face. In Greybridge, time resumed its shape, but the people within it no longer trusted the space between seconds. The path behind the quarry was overgrown, not by season but by avoidance. Gravel had once reached to the rim, trucks lining the drop in even rows. All gone. Wind scattered dust across the cut slope, bare machines rusting in place, cables snapped like dried veins. He walked alone, instrument pack slung across his shoulder, boots leaving no imprint in soil that had hardened overnight. Compass twitched with each step. Bearings failed to settle. Ground temperature 5 degrees lower than the ridge. The vent wasn't marked on any map. Just a shallow depression behind a fallen loader, masked by brush. A scan 3 years prior had flagged a hollow chamber, dismissed as gas pocket. He lowered a probe. Signal bounced once. No delay. Solid wall at 13 feet. He marked the point and began to dig. The stone surface revealed itself inch by inch. Not quarried. Not natural. Polished smooth without fracture lines. Surface cool. Fingers left no print. No dust rose. His tools rang with muted tone against it. He cleared the shape by sundown. Circle 5 meters wide, set with 7 notches at equal intervals. Each angled inward. He touched the first. It pressed inward with no resistance. Stone retracted. A hollow shaft descended into dark. He entered without light. The steps weren't cut. They'd formed into his path, responding without sound. The air changed with depth. Not colder. Not thicker. Just absent of scent. Breathing became shallow. Not difficult. Just restrained. The chamber opened without warning. Not carved. Not excavated. A space-borne hole. Every wall curved to match the others, smooth as if turned inside a mold. No seams. No dust. No decay. Marks covered the surface, drawn not with ink but by depression. Rings, tight as fingerprints, spiraled from ceiling to floor. Each line separated by equal space, none crossing the other. He ran his hand across one, felt temperature shift. Not warmth. Not chill. A current reversing against his skin. At the center stood the device. Not placed. Rooted. It rose to waist height. Metal frame beneath layers of ash. Shape not entirely geometric. Corners incomplete, too smooth to belong to machines. A plate across its face bore no markings, only 3 ridges that rose and fell with a rhythm. He cleared the dust with his sleeve. At first it didn't respond. Then it pulsed. Once. Light beneath the surface. Soft red. He stepped back. 3 seconds passed. Another pulse. Same brightness. Same pause. Backward. He checked his watch. Hands froze. The pulse returned. He counted again. 3 seconds. Again. Not slowing. Not increasing. The same rhythm as the subterranean signal. He placed his recorder on the floor. Watched it power off. Not battery failure. Not malfunction. Just refusal. The chamber accepted no outside rhythm. Only its own. Chairs scraped tile in uneasy patterns. People gathered with half-filled notebooks, printouts folded under arms, blank expressions barely softened by polite greetings. A podium had been pulled from storage, wood faded, one corner splintered. Water bottles lined a folding table, with no one reaching for them. Every seat filled, none settled. The lights above buzzed low. Not flickering. Not pulsing. Just dimming by degrees too fine to measure. Like twilight under a locked ceiling. The room held breath as questions circled without answers. A woman asked if the water still tasted off. A teacher asked why her class photo showed one extra child. A man from the edge of town held up a Polaroid that hadn't been taken, showing him inside a house that had burned down years ago. No one laughed. No one dismissed. Behind the crowd, near the exit doors, A phone screen blinked without command. Lines of code scrolled, stalled, rebooted mid-sequence. Another buzzed to life and began recording voice, though none had spoken. A toddler pointed at the ceiling, began counting backward from 6. A soft clink came from the floor under the podium. A wristwatch struck tile. The strap lay flat. Hands motionless. Face lit without glow. No ticking. Beside it, another phone dropped signal. Time display froze. No messages came through. Battery held full charge but refused to respond to touch. Near the ceiling corners, the old defense speakers exhaled once. That sound that metal makes before use, just air moving wrong. Grills long sealed under decades of paint cracked clean in a single breath. One speaker tilted slightly, aimed at the center of the room. The noise that followed did not build. It arrived. Sharp. Dry. Wide enough to split conversation. A siren not meant for today. That sound hadn't rung in 60 years. No reason existed for it to work. Power cords disconnected. Console dismantled. Yet it screamed with perfect clarity. No alarm tone. No pattern. One long wail that held without end. Someone stood. Another covered their ears. A few stayed seated, shoulders locked. The pastor whispered something to no one. A girl scribbled on her notebook without seeing the page. Across the town, clocks struck the hour. No chime. Just motion. All at once. Hands jerked upward to 3:03. Second hands reversed halfway, then froze. Street signs reset backlighting. Traffic lights defaulted to amber. Gas station pumps cleared displays mid-transaction. An ice cream truck parked in the lot across from City Hall blinked its menu off without touch. Inside the meeting room, the sound cut off. No fade. Just absence. The lights gave once more, enough to show every clock in the room locked to the same mark. Time had stopped again. But this time, everyone was awake. Thank you for watching and sticking with me to the end. Now, if you believe humanity deserves a future among the stars, do subscribe now. Only those who'd abandon Earth to its fate will scroll past.